It's hard to explain cycling to the uninitiated. People see these amateur enthusiasts, all the lycra and the paraphernalia. They think that it's pretentious at best and perverse at worst. Like, there's a guy in full lycra doing his shopping at the local supermarket. Onlookers are like, this guy's a perverted exhibitionist, and they're covering their children's eyes. Cyclists will tell you that the lycra and the padding is so that the skin doesn't chafe on long rides and so that the sweat can evaporate. And you're like, I don't want to hear about it. I didn't ask. I don't want to join your swingers WhatsApp group. I told you that before. Bystanders are like, why doesn't that pervert just get the bus like everybody else? The swinging community, actually, and the cycling community are closely connected. No, actually, that's nonsense, and it's slanderous to both groups, but it's true that the sport of cycling doesn't have the best reputation. I can understand why people would be suspicious of cyclists. Until recently, all the pro cyclists were on speed and steroids and EPO and God knows what else. Marco Pantani died of an overdose in the throes of cocaine psychosis. And, that's not even to mention the whole Lance Armstrong saga. So people probably think, well, if the pros are doing coke and speed, then the enthusiasts are probably snuffing glue and doing nitrous oxide while they clog up the back roads, occasionally pulling over for a spot of dogging in the bushes. Actually, most of the weekend cyclists are very nice. They're outdoors, they're doing exercise, seeing some nice places. It's all smiles and good vibes. They just want coffee and cake and beer. They're dressed in garish lycra because they're scared of being run off the road by aggressive drivers. The mainstream see a subculture that they don't understand, and immediately it's all pitchforks and burning torches. We should burn their lycra. That's just human nature, the classic overreaction. But there's another subculture of cyclists, the racers, and they can be a bit over the top. These are the ones who are timing themselves while they aggressively do laps of the park. It's alright, calm down, you're in your 40s. I don't think there's much danger of you suddenly turning pro, no matter how much extra testosterone you've managed to get your hands on. Those guys can be pains. Road rage can be even worse when cyclists are involved. The cyclists are already full of adrenaline from exerting themselves on the bike, so some of these guys are like really ready to go. They're just looking for an excuse to go off. I remember seeing a cyclist in a park struggling up a hill, and this little old woman is driving a hatchback, slowly overtaking him. He feels that she's not giving him enough room at the side of the road, so he starts banging on the car roof. Now, that's not a good look, all dressed up in your BDSM lycra gear and banging on the roof of some granny's car. This was a fine example of the repressed rage of the corporate office worker. I've seen delivery cyclists get into some serious scraps, screaming matches. Well, they're hired through an app, so they often have zero training, zero experience, subpar equipment, and then they're immediately under pressure. Some lazy fuck is complaining about his delivery, saying, oh, my burrito and my cinnamon latte are late, and the guy can't find the flat, and the intercom's broken, and they get a puncture on the way out. So then they get into a fight with a guy in a white van, and someone films it and tries to sell it to the Daily Mail. We also have the other subset of cyclists in the big cities, the commuter cyclist, who can evolve into the zealous, fanatical, and potentially dangerous supercommuter. I get it, riding your bike home does beat the misery of sitting in traffic or public transport, surrounded by depressed people surreptitiously drinking gin and tonic out of cans. You have all these disempowered corporate drones who spend all day in front of a computer, politely answering emails, making tea and forcing a smile, smart casual, full of repressed rage. Then when they clock off, they take off their suit, that symbol of conformity and convention, and then put on their gay lycra and their fluorescent raincoat. They have a body again and some agency. It's a superhero thing. Clark Kent transforms into Superman. Well, it's Superman without the cape or the superpowers. Electric bikes make it even worse because they're associated with phone thieves, and we don't really have the infrastructure for them, or maybe the infrastructure for bikes in general, where I live anyway. And then you have shared bikes. They clog up the streets, and the people using them are often totally oblivious, or they're just drunk and trying to get home from the pub. The worst is having a bike and trying to get it fixed. I don't know if you've had this experience, but the guy in the repair shop is always indignant, resentful that you're this lazy and incompetent, that you can't take care of your own affairs. Well, it's understandable. I'm sure they're underpaid and people keep bringing them in rusty old bikes covered in shit and saying, fix that. Half of the time they have a crying child or an indignant wife with them.